Welcome to Be Our Guest, our weekly virtual happy hour with industry professionals. I'm Dev Janki, Artistic Director of Live and in Color. We are a not-for-profit theater company based in New York and Connecticut, developing new plays and musicals that promote and celebrate diversity. For more information, make sure to check out our website, theaterincolor.org. Now, grab a drink and start leaving your questions for our very special guests in the comments. 17 years ago, after step class one day, a good friend of mine, producer Jack Daglish, asked me if I would join a workshop of a brand new musical that he had optioned after seeing it at a Yale cabaret. After a very quick developmental process, I had the great privilege to direct and choreograph the original cast of the off-Broadway premiere of the now cult classic Xanadone, written by a very talented young writer, Tim Aceto, with additional materials by Oscar winner Alexander Dinelaris. Tonight, I am so excited to reunite with the wonderful cast that brought the show to life. Let's all take a trip back to Heartsville, USA together. Please join me in welcoming the original cast of Xanadone, Jay Rodriguez, Anika Larsen, Darius Nichols, Amanda Ryan Paige, Enrico Rodriguez, Shelley Thomas-Harts, Robb Sapp, and Jared Zeus. Welcome. Hello, beautiful friends. Cheers.
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 So good to see you all. You all look fabulous. Not a day over 20 something, right?
Yay!
Jay, just for the people out there who may not know the plot of Xanadone, can you maybe just give us an overview of what the show is about? And then maybe we can go around and tell people what character you played quickly, just so we get a sense of what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah, Xanadone is, it takes place in sort of this magical universe in which being heterosexual is weird and everyone in our play, in our story and world is gay. And so the high school students come together to do a very provocative play on whether or not heterosexuals should be allowed in the military. And in the process, the leading lady and our leading man, that was played by Jared and Shelley, fall in love. And I use my magical matchmaking powers. I buried the lead there. I'm a magical matchmaker in high school. To make it acceptable for them to go to prom. And in casting that spell, I have the possibility of losing my powers. And I show up at prom, everyone's straight except for me. And yeah, but the show is about inclusivity. And I am kind of shocked, but really proud that it's one of the things people stop me for the most out of everything in my career. And I don't think while doing the show that any of us would have known that even though we only ran for just a few months, that it would have such longevity.
Absolutely. Can you all go around and just tell everyone what roles you played, Anika?
Yes, I was Roberta. I was the angry one.
And Darius?
I was Candy's assistant, Buck.
Yes.
Amanda?
And I was Candy. And I was the pain in everybody's tuchus. That's what I did.
And Robb?
I was Tank. I was the school DJ.
School DJ. Jared?
I was Steve, the school jock.
Shelley?
I was Kate, very anxious and nerdy, I guess.
And Enrico?
I played Mike Singer, and I was like the big man on campus.
The big man, the chess champion.
Chess champion.
Yes.
I was.
So I want to start before the show ever started. We went through months of auditioning. I think some of you have some crazy audition stories that you may want to share. Anika, didn't you have one? And Amanda?
Well, it's so funny that you say step class. I didn't know that part of it. That you and Jack were in step class together?
Yes.
Well, does anybody else remember step class aerobics?
Exactly.
Step up on the step, down on the step, like
That's what it was meant.
came and went over like the course of a year. So you were also in step class with me. And then I remember getting called in for the audition and doing my audition and feeling reasonably good about it. And you were like, well, thanks. See you in step class. And I was like, guess I didn't book it.
And what's crazy is it's just about perception, right? I was just so excited. I'm like, oh, shit, we'll call her back. Definitely. We don't have to waste time with her. So cut to, here we are.
Here we are, man. Wow. Yes. And for me too, honestly, like, here's the crazy thing. So we only ran for like 3 or 4 months off Broadway, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a dream to take it to Broadway, and it never happened, sadly. But the number, everybody in the business saw it. The number of people who have come up to me after. Chris Ashley, the director, then cast me in 2 Broadway shows after that, Xanadu and All Shook Up. So like my whole career was like rebounded off of this show. And then like I'm about to do Almost Famous the musical, and Tom Cook came up to me in the first day of rehearsal and he was like, I saw you in Xanadone. I did a reading with Will Swenson and he was like, I saw Xanadone. Everyone saw it.
That's true. Yes. Amanda, I want people to tell your audition story.
Oh,
it's one of my favorite.
So I showed up in my basic, like I'm a cute little chorus girl, and here's my beautiful skirt, and here's my beautiful top, and here's my beautiful face with my wavy, gorgeous hair, and I'm trying to look 25 years old, and here I am. And I come in and I do it, and then who told me? I don't even know.
I told you this. Well, I'll just say the people in the room were like, "Oh, she's really good, but she's just too old.
She's so old. She's just so old."
And my assistant Rusty Mowry and I were like, "She's just too good." So Rusty, we behind the producer's back went to the casting director and said, "Call her back. We're going to call Amanda."
Yeah.
And I think Rusty called you and said, "Take off all your makeup, put your hair back, dress up like a kid."
Dress up like a kid. I put on a tank top and a pair of ripped jeans, and apparently it was like, well, who's this? We haven't seen her. I was like, I just washed off the mascara. That's all I did.
So dress the part.
Dress the part. That's what we learned. That's what we learned.
So we've spoken about it a little bit, but the show's themes were really ahead of its time, right? Very early on, it garnered a really strong fan base and has gone on to be a cult classic. Please, anyone jump in. Why do you think its popularity has lasted so long?
Well, I listened to the cast album today, and the music is just so amazing. And I'm just bopping around the apartment, just remembering trying to do all the choreography to it, but just the music is just so good. And by the time we get to Don't Ask, Don't Tell, you can just listening to the cast album, you're completely enveloped into the story. Yeah. Just in the cast album alone.
I'll jump in. I know that for me, I came into the process a little later, and I really would be remiss if I didn't thank Gregory Trico for all the support he gave me. He did the workshops as Zanna and really kind of helped me kind of guide me with Dev as well, just kind of make it my own. And I know that in the beginning of it, I got cast in the show, but in my normal life, I was performing at a nightclub wearing sparkly shirts and ripped jeans with sequins on them, and Enrico sang at my night. And so yeah, yes, Chorus Boy Couture. But long story short, it was, I think we were just this sort of underground thing. And I think, I didn't really necessarily know that lyrics that say, like, in Someday You Might Love Me, there's a really profound lyric that I just sang the song recently. And there's a line in there that says, and this is Zanna's big 11 o'clock number. He says, I'm man, woman, gay, straight, all things in between. And so the idea of putting someone on stage who is gender nonconforming in 2003, I mean, even Ben Brantley misgendered me and when he reviewed the show and the character. And it's just, it was so ahead of its time that I think a lot of people saw the show and found something that they saw themselves reflected in, even if they're not gay or even if they're not a theater person. We had people come to see the show like 7, 8, 9 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, I have a question. If musical theater doesn't raise important political issues, well,
Thank you, Timocito.
That is a coveted shirt. That's highly coveted.
Genius.
That's amazing.
It's so true. And speaking of crazy fans, I mean, you did have a huge groupies and you had a lot of celebrities come. Who is your favorite celebrity guest to show up?
Liza.
Liza.
Yeah.
That was
Liza.
Closing Night.
Wow.
She was nice. She was very complimentary to the show. She loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember what she said. She stopped us. She's like, I love it. It's just love. She was just blabbering about how it was love. And I think we were just shocked that it was her, that I heard her saying is that it was so much love. But I kept thinking, if someone like Liza Minnelli, thinks this is a great piece of theater, I was, first of all, I'm down to do, when the world reopens, an actual physical reunion. If anyone wants to do a one night only, signing up for that. Because watching all this and just seeing your faces, it brings back so many great memories.
Do you all remember what Liza? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Rob.
What Liza said. She said the beautiful part of the show is that your minds changed, but your heart stayed the same.
Oh my God, she said that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good memory.
Well, if you do a reunion in person, I expect full choreography. Do you all remember the choreography? I'd like to do some right now as your director. Do you remember the choreography? Be a man.
Be a man.
Join the army. Join the Air Force.
Join the Coast Guard.
Join the Marines.
Work
together. Sweat together.
Shower together.
All right.
Oh my God, it's right there.
We
Well,
did
it
that many
scares me
times.
is
You
that
rehearsed us
pom-pom
crazy
thing.
on that.
Oh, the pom poms, yes.
Well, speaking of, the choreography was easy, wasn't it?
What?
Yeah. How dare you? How dare you say that to this character actress? Please.
I'm not a dancer. It was so. It was hard. It was hard, but challenging. But we did it. Like, looking back at footage now, I'm like, we did it. I don't consider myself a dancer, and I look back now, and it just was this. I understand why you did it in so hard. It did add to the style of the piece.
Yeah.
I was so skinny because of I was sweating. Do you remember how we were all sweating by the end? I didn't have to go to the gym. I was, whatever. A little younger, but it was the best workout.
We were in the coveralls, and I remember being underdressed, so we were in costumes during the most aerobic number of. Although riding was pretty aerobic as well.
We were in the cowboy costumes underneath that, weren't we? In the full. I think I was wearing that full skirt with the top and the boobs and everything under the zip up coveralls.
For the I'm okay, you're okay corral scene.
Yes.
Can you guys do fat? Can you do it right now?
That's right. Oh, fast. Oh my God.
Can you do it right now?
Yeah. This tongue does not move that fast anymore.
I was so impressed.
Doing it faster and faster each show. Let's see how fast we can do it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Ridiculous warm-ups to that show.
That white room where you just don't know where you are. We had no chance to do that ever.
No,
never, right? You never stopped, right?
No. It was like one of those shows lyrically. Like, if you go up, there's, it's so hard to get back on because it moves so fast, and there's so many lyrics, and especially songs like "Fast," where the tempo is also just, if you went into the blank space. It was hurting.
No.
Speaking of, do you have any memorable onstage mishaps that happened during rehearsal or the run?
I don't know. I'm sure.
I know for me, and this is something I don't even know if I told you guys about, but I was shooting Queer Eye during the day, so I was getting up at 5:30, getting on set by 6, trying to get to you guys by curtain, and then honestly, I just started having panic attacks, and I thought I was having heart attacks, and so Greg had to go on for me mid-show, which was like super embarrassing, but B, like I didn't even know what was going on with me, but I think that was like for me, being on stage and knowing I think you're gonna throw up or pass out, like that was like looking at something with like desperation in my eyes. That probably couldn't have been fun for anyone.
I don't remember that at all. My goodness.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
Yeah, I cut out mid-show like 3 or 4 times, and I have never done that in my career. And it was literally just taking on so much and not being able to acknowledge that I was being pulled in 2 different directions. And and I just barreled forward. But I remember being on stage like, I should probably not be here right now.
I don't remember that at all.
Good. You're right. It didn't happen. Cheers.
It didn't happen. Totally didn't happen.
Since
I don't remember anything like that.
There was a time when I had to use the bathroom mid-show, and I had to pee so badly, and I had to figure out when was the longest break in the show where I could pee. And even then, I was kind of like, I have to finish because my cue's coming up, so I'm in the bathroom going, and I'm like, okay, I got 5 seconds. So there was an awful.
They left her mic on during that, just so you know.
I remember because the show, like Rob said, it's a train. It just kept going, and there was no getting off. But I definitely took the time to find when I was singing the same exact note as someone else, so I could take a breath. So someone else is singing that note. That's okay. We don't need 2 people on that. I'm going to take a breath now. Okay, great. We can go on. Truly.
Oh, God. Amazing. At the time, Xanadone got so many great reviews from the press and was nominated for multiple awards. You started talking about it a little bit in the beginning, but I'm curious, how did being a part of Xanadone affect your career? Anika, you spoke about it, but for anyone else, how did it shape your careers moving forward?
Well, I want to say one thing. I remember Anika saying because this was my first show in New York, first at all. I remember I had actually got. Okay, yeah, I got cast in a TheaterWorks U.S.A. production. I was going on that. I had a costume fitting, and then I got this, and the off Broadway at Theater Row. And so then I said, what do I do? I'm doing this. Okay, great, cool. Just recently out of school. And when we did the off Broadway move, I remember Anika saying, like, you guys, I mean, this doesn't happen. This doesn't always happen. I mean, this is. And I just felt so naive. I was like, oh, okay, well, this is my first show. We're going from off to off Broadway. Then we did the cast album. So for me, it was like just getting shot out of a really cool canon, maybe career really, canon. And
glittery canon.
Glittery. There you go. Pink glittery. So it was, for me, it was everything. It really just catapulted my whole trajectory. And same thing as others have said, people always bring this up. I know it's done around the world. There's so many schools. So sometimes young kids, when you're doing like a Q&A, they will say, oh, Xanadone. So yeah, for me, it was kind of amazing that was the first show and it did that. I will always cherish that.
It's so rare in your career that you get to create a role. And we all got to create these roles. And I was almost 30 when we were doing it. I remember being 29 and thinking, I'm playing a 16-year-old. When am I going to look old enough to play a grown-up? But like to get that so early on, I don't know that you can fully appreciate what a gift that is to make that impact and then to be on the cast album that everyone will hear forever. And the thought that, because I know, and I'm sure you guys did too, but when I did shows in high school, you got the cast album to learn the song. I didn't reach music well enough. So there are kids out there who are listening to us to learn their songs to do the show. And how cool is it? They're taking our riffs because they're like, is there another way to do it? It's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I just speak about off that. I think also too, we all have cast albums where you can't hear it any other way. And I think that's the remarkable thing is, I'll have people stop me and ask about you guys, like where you are now, because not only did they fall in love with the album, then they're so invested in who played it, who is this person, and they want that connection. I will say it again. I didn't think that, I knew the show was good. I didn't know that it would have such a long time to be relevant. It's still being done today.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's interesting about it being done today. I think the last time we did sort of a mini concert of it a couple years ago, I was saying, it's strange because I don't know how it's going to land because it's almost a period piece now in terms of the don't ask, don't tell thing, which is like, I'm like, I wonder how it will play, but I guess it's still, there's so many other themes in it that are still, we're still dealing with in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's very relevant still.
So Anika, you have been in multiple Broadway shows and were nominated for a Tony for your role in Beautiful. You were amazing in. How does it feel to be the only person in the original cast of both Xanadu and Xanadone?
Yeah. I tell people that anytime I do like a talk, like a Q&A, I try to fit that in, that I was in the original casts of Xanadu and Xanadone. But here's the funny thing is that I actually, Xanadone sort of, not only it helped me get Xanadu because I had already worked with Chris Ashley, who again, I had seen Xanadone, but somebody, and I still don't know who it is, somebody dropped out of Xanadu at the last minute, like a week before rehearsals. And I went to some gathering for drinks at like someplace on 9th Avenue and for theater people. And Chris was there. And I was saying, oh, you're about to start Xanadu rehearsals. That's cool. I was like, and I said something about Xanadone, Xanadu and how funny that would be. And he looked at me like this. And the next day I got a call from my, they want you to come in and audition for it. So if I hadn't made that joke, I might not have gotten called in to audition for it. So, but yes, that is a fun fact in theater history.
It is. You'll go down in some Broadway folklore book. So we were speaking about this a little bit just now about originating a role. Robb, you originated the role in Xanadone, but you've also been a replacement in many hit shows such as Wicked and Shrek the Musical. I'm curious what the process is like, and how is it different going into a show that already exists as opposed to creating something?
Well, the process of getting put into a show is a lot quicker. Usually when you're creating a show, if it's a new show, it's like 5 weeks, 6 weeks, or if there's workshop versions and, readings off Broadway, it may span, months, years. And with, I think about Wicked, I think about Shrek, and it's like 2 weeks, and you're in the show. So, and you're sort of filling, you're filling a track. So like, there's not the same process of being in the space and all as a group, feeling it out together and sort of molding it together. And that was one of the joys of Xanadone, was so much of us, that's in those characters, and it's the relationships that are in the show are infused with the personal relationships that we brought into the room. And so many times we would be like goofing off on a break and we would be doing things that would end up in the show.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
And from backstage in the dressing room, like we would have a little bit of liberty to try out like those things on stage because we were crafting the show, versus something like a Wicked where it's like, you have to be here at this point in time because the show's been teched already and costumes have been designed and this is how it is and this is how it's going to remain for the next 30 years that it runs. So, it's a different process, each exhilarating in their own way, but there is nothing like, and I learned this very early on with this group, there is nothing like creating a show, an original cast, and especially when it's a group of people like the group of people here. Because was truly a love fest every like you show days, you know, usually you get out of the theater and you try to just like go to a restaurant or take a walk. We would all get our food and come back and be shows, like being silly, making each other laugh, like the wigs, you know.
And not even the ones that were on the show. I think Enrico and I really brought in a few that were just for fun.
Private stock, and like the characters that we would create that weren't even in the show that still sort of, you know, exist.
I kind of about those wigs.
I want to know where those wigs are right now.
I got
for sure.
Around like in heels backstage and stuff too, or was that just?
I'm sure.
You know, the backstage life, the dressing rooms were very different. The ladies, we were quiet, like we were on makeup and we were quiet, and the guys. It was a party. It was an absolute party, and it was.
Do you remember? It was
was the warm up.
Yeah, we were so loud all the time.
And it was the York production of Godspell that we listened to almost every single day before the show that everybody had to warm up to. It was amazing.
There was not a full wall between the boys and the girls. It was like
a curtain,
so we could not get away from it.
They would come in, we'd go in there sometimes. We're like, "What are you doing?" Fashion shows happening, and Jared. It was always fun when Jared is like, "Yeah, okay."
I have to say though, I know how to throw a spiral football because Jared is our resident straight guy, and I was so nervous because, you know, there's a moment in the show where we have to like kiss because I'm like helping him practice, which also I tried that in real life, doesn't work. So I learned how to throw a spiral, Jared, because do you remember teaching me off stage? And now I'm actually still good at it.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
I'd never thrown one before, and you were like, "This is how you do it." Yeah.
Yes. And Jared also taught us about when we went the transformation from gay to straight. You know, he taught all the boys how to have the, you know, the rock stand, you know, wide legs. He was our technical consultant for the straight boys.
Yeah. That one was a hard one for me.
Just sending him to a bevel every time.
Hilarious. Darius, I want to cut to you. You are in your 6th year working on Book of Mormon on Broadway, which is amazing. What was it like behind the scenes recently when the show shut down due to the pandemic? What was going on?
The first thing that happened was once things started happening and people started getting affected, we were in the middle of Broadway Cares collections, and I had made the personal decision. I was like, maybe I don't want to collect. I don't feel comfortable collecting. So then other people decided that they didn't feel comfortable interacting with the audience at that time either. So they had volunteers come in to start collecting. And then it just started to really escalate. People started getting infected, and it was getting worrisome. People were showing up in the audience with masks on more and more. And our show, which is usually sold out, people started not to come. So there were empty seats all of a sudden. And it was like, oh, this is serious. Then they started offering, we're going to make the offering of $50 tickets for the weekend, but it never happened because that Wednesday, March 12th, everything kind of shut down. And we left the theater thinking, we're not going to make it to the weekend. They'll probably close the show to clean the theater or something like that. But then March 12th happened and we still never went back. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I anticipate, since it's one of the sort of one of the bigger hits, that it will be coming back.
Yeah, we've had meetings, and also in, you know, what's going on now, we've had meetings about making sure that the jokes still land well.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a strange time for all of us artists, you know, and you know, we were talking about before the show, just we've all had to shift our focus to the virtual world and creating work like the show, and Anika with Plays in the House, and Shelley, I know you've been, besides being a new mom, you've been participating in a lot of virtual theater stuff. You were in Live and in Color's Telephone Hour, which we just recently
Yes.
but you also are currently working on a project called the Read In series. Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, actually started by someone that I did Rent with on tour. I know there's Rent people here as well.
Yeah.
Good. Enrico. Yeah, so she, just in the wake of George Floyd and everything going on and social justice, she began this. It's basically like an online reading marathon. We've pre-taped, and my husband and I, Frank Hearts, we both did a portion of it's Black Reconstruction in America, W.B. Du Bois, and it's playing now on it's called the Read In series. So you can go to their Instagram, all that good stuff, readinseries.com. Tuesday and Friday they show different chapters, and there's Felicia Rashad kicked it off, and there's just amazing people taking part, and up until or through Election Day, actually. So it was kind of a brilliant idea of this book that, it's like over 700 pages long. So a lot of us probably won't get time to read that. But my friend, Miri Park, she's I think she's studying for her PhD. And so she does that kind of reading. So she really wanted to share this with as many people as she could. And I'm looking forward to checking out different parts. So it's been playing already. And I actually also did something with a Live and in Color alum, Masi.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm still waiting to see that, but we did something fun, and she's been creating. So yeah.
I'm really amazed at how resilient we all are. We really, artists are, we're going to get through this hell or high water and come out the other end. It's so, it's very inspiring to me. Speaking of inspiring, Enrico, you now own a dance studio, Headline Dance Center. So exciting. Can you tell us about the school and all the work you're doing?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I definitely decided, oh my God. Okay.
Don't rob the people of your true personality. Let the celestial moons guide you.
No, so I definitely decided, I just really did not want to perform anymore. Like, I just was done. I was like, I don't want to audition. I was starting to get like really bad performance anxiety, which is something I'd never really experienced before. And I realized, I just don't think I want to do this anymore. So I started teaching like master classes across the country in dance first. And then I realized that I really loved teaching. Like, I loved kind of like sharing what I've learned. And, kids and teenagers are difficult, but I have a connection with them in a very unusual way. Like, I understand their language. So I got engaged, and he grew up here in Minneapolis, and we met in New York. And he was like, I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't even think I want to live in New York anymore. But I remembered how much I love Minneapolis, and the art scene here is very vibrant. So he's like, what about Minneapolis? I was like, sure. Got here, still thought that maybe I'd want to perform, but I was getting kind of direct offers to like the Ordway and stuff like that. And I was like, no. I was just saying no. And like, I was also seeing my friends getting casting shows on Facebook, and I was not even feeling left out or nothing. So I was like, I'm done. Mm-hmm. So next step was to drain every dollar I ever saved in my entire life. And and just try to fulfill this other dream that I always had in the back of my head, and it's ended up growing really quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm obsessed with my job. I'm obsessed with all these kids, and it was difficult at first. Like, it was great at first, and then it became very difficult during, once stay at home happened, and we did Zoom classes, and somehow, maybe because of my personality or like how I we were able to like retain our students, and in fact, and then once we reopened, when Governor Walz said that we can reopen with very with a very strict protocol, we grew. Like more kids started coming to us.
Yeah.
So, we're dancing in boxes. Like we have squares here, but it's been a dream, and it's my new. I have no desire to perform more at all.
It's so thrilling. I mean, just passing on your wisdom to the next generation, and I think young artists especially are just so hungry for an outlet right now. So
and spongy too. They're like sponges. You give them some tools and tips and coaching, and they practice it. They're hungry. And it's kind of exciting to see like the results on my end. I'm like, oh my gosh, I did that. Well, they did it too. It's like nice to like be able to give the tools or provide some tools to help them become better.
Do they listen to? Do your kids listen to you on the Xanadone cast album? Have they stalked you on YouTube and like
stalk all the time? And I get really embarrassed. I say don't do it. Yeah, they do. But they're also so young, and this is frightening that like even like they don't even know who Britney Spears is. Like it's like
what?
This is my new.
I don't understand.
Well, you're educating them, Enrico. You're in really important things like Britney.
Britney Spears is.
I'll be like,
You don't know Whitney?
I'd be like, we're doing like some sections from Mean Girls, and I was like, like Lindsay Lohan, and they're like, who's she? And I was like,
Oh my God,
that's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's been really great, and I love it.
So thrilling, Enrico. Amanda,
Yes.
I know you come from a long line of artists, directors, actors, circus performers. Tell us a little about that and how it has influenced you as a performer in your career, because you're one of the funniest people I know.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it's generations back. Everybody's been a performer, and even if I wanted to do something else, there is no way I could possibly do something else. I literally can't. It's impossible for me. I can't do anything. This is it. This is all I can do. But yeah, I like my great grandmother who lived to 104 years old. She was a trapeze artist.
Yeah.
Like how crazy is that? So she, you know all of the trapeze stuff that you have over in Chelsea, like Chelsea Piers. She started that. That's her stuff.
Wow.
That's all her. Yeah. And my grandfather was a studio guitarist, and he toured with lots of big bands and blah blah blah. But What a Wonderful World, we know that song. The guitar that you hear in that's my grandfather.
Wow.
My grandmother. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the performer. Who is the lady with the fans and the scarves? Who is that stripper?
Sally Rand.
Is that right? Sally Rand. So my grandmother was something like 14, 15 years old, and my great grandmother shoved her into being a chorus girl, and she was out on the road. And she's performing as one of the girls behind her while these, the scarves, the doves are taking the scarves and there's fans and things. She looks across the way at the girl wearing the same exact costume as her. My grandmother's 14. And the girl looks naked. And she calls her mother and says, Mom, I think I'm in a strip show. And my great grandmother says to her, you are making all the money for this family. You will stay on this show. This is what's happening. And she was like 14, 15 years old.
So what I'm hearing from this, Amanda, is that when we do the reunion, you're going to be nude on a trapeze.
Yes.
A couple of small changes.
A couple small changes in the show. And like fast at the same time.
Exactly. Amanda, those are some incredible stories. You need to write a book or something about it. That truly,
absolutely.
part of our history.
I know.
It's thrilling. Jared, so you are our international friend now. You actually are calling in from Wales. It's very, very late. And you are a very extremely successful voice actor since you moved out there. Can you just talk about your life out there and your career out there? It's a huge shift from the States.
Yeah. It just sort of became something that I kind of fell into because I had moved over here because I had met my wife and we decided that we were going to live in London. And then I was looking for work and I had a lot of experience recording things through music. And so a friend of mine said, well, they often need voiceover artists. Can you record yourself? I was like, yeah. So I recorded a reel and sent it out and just kind of started that way. And yeah, now it's what I do, which is exciting and I love it. The same way that you love what you're doing, Enrico. It's amazing when you find something that isn't quite what you had pictured for yourself maybe at one point in time in your life, and then you fall into something else that you absolutely love. Yeah, it's a blessing to be able to do voiceover.
Well, we miss you in the States, so I hope someday we can lure you back here. Jay, so many people know you from your role as the culture guy in Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. It was the first all-gay cast on television. There you are. You actually you mentioned this. You actually got cast in the show.
That's a CD player on my hip. That's a CD walker.
Oh my God.
Represents culture, right?
I guess. Oh my God.
It actually was the first all-gay cast on television, and you got cast in the show while you were in the run of Xanadone. What was that whole experience like? You spoke about a little bit juggling.
Yeah, so everything. I think, Enrico, I don't know if you took a leave of absence to do Zanna, but I had taken, I think I was in Rent, and I took a 6-month leave of absence to do Xanadone. And then in the middle of basically the beginning of the run, I had this weird audition for the show. There was nothing like it, so they couldn't even tell me really kind of what it was going to be. I remember even sharing in the dressing room, like, it's kind of like The View. I had no idea what it was going to be because they didn't know what to say to me. And I remember shooting during the day, and I remember that I had platinum white hair when we had done the show. And, flat ironing it because I have curly hair, it started breaking off. I get the show. They're like, we want you to dye your hair brown. I was like, score. So then I do that during the day in Zanna at night, and juggling both was crazy. But little did I know that 17 years ago, I would have an opportunity to do 2 groundbreaking productions that I didn't even at the time recognize the magnitude and the weight of how these shows would live on. And frankly, we just reunited the Queer Eye Boys. We just did a 1-hour reunion special that'll air on E next summer. And it's so bizarre because they ask about you guys because they came to come see me before they didn't even meet me yet. They came when they heard I was being cast on the show. So the first introduction is literally included me ripping open my, sergeant's uniform into hot pants that were crystal. This is gonna work with us. Yeah. But no, it was amazing. I think, I miss theater so much. The last thing I did on stage was Gary Marshall did buyer and seller out here and cast me. He had never seen the play. He just read it, and again was kind of in that space you guys were talking about, creating original roles. I got to then sort of recreate this role that I didn't have to be directed like the person that had originally done it, and it was a cool experience. But being here in Los Angeles, there's not a whole lot of theater to be part of. I mean, in the Heights a couple years ago, but every time I see those of you on social media share, it's like there is such, or if someone brings up Zanna, there is such a primal pull to theater. And to piggyback on what Amanda said, it's something that's so innately a part of who I am. And so even if there becomes a point in my life where I no longer perform on stage, maybe I direct or whatever, finding my bliss like Enrico, it's literally just something that anytime I see a stage piece, you get all these memories back in such a deep way. It's hard to describe to people who've never experienced it.
Yeah. All of you are so friggin' talented. I feel so honored to have you in my life. You have influenced the lives of so many other performers. I'm curious, who did you all look up to in the industry when you first started out?
Ray Burge was me. He's the reason why I came to New York City. I saw him in Course-Line, the movie, and I need to meet him. I want to go to New York and meet him. And that's why I came to New York. So he was my biggest inspiration.
Wow.
I think for me, it was Billy Porter for me, because when I was growing up, it was very evangelical household. So to get musical theater in the house, I had to have a friend burn a CD and write Amy Grant on it. And that whole musical theater into my Christian home. And it was like contraband. And I remember listening to Beauty School Dropout in the revival cast album of Grease, where Billy sang, and I thought it was two vocalists, because I couldn't believe a male vocalist range could, go so high. And then a couple years later, when I was doing Rent, Billy's best friend is Michael McElroy, who was our Collins, Enrico and I, and I think Anika, you worked with him as well. But anyway, he was, just to be that close to someone I admired, I think for many reasons. A, he was a person of color. He was gayer than life itself, and it helped me feel seen. I think, and he talks about this too. The kind of roles that we got to play in this show, several of us, it was not something that was the norm outside of Rent or another show like that. And so for a lot of people in generations to come, it was just like finally being seen. And so for me, I'm so happy for his success now, but he'll talk about how, it was a struggle back then. And what we did in Zanna was really progressive.
Anyone else have any inspiration?
Well, I'll say someone who has since become a boss of mine, the lovely Vanessa Williams, who was a fan of the show, who came like at least 3 times, brought people back.
There she is.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I need that picture.
Yeah. But our family's actually been connected for quite a long time. Our brothers went to college together, and we've been connected as family friends. And but now I've basically maybe a year after doing Zanna, I started going on the road with her singing backup, and I'm still doing that. So it's been so she was, growing up an inspiration and a role model. And then, now she's in my life in a very different way, and she's been awesome. So yeah, but I always just looked up to her, and I think her career is just a beautiful model of a career, and just bouncing around, and the work ethic, she's talk about doing virtual stuff. She is like doing things all the time from home now. So
and such an amazing long career too. It's really
and a really lovely just person too. So it's nice to see that whole package, and a mom.
This cast really, for me, embodies what diversity in a cast looks like. And I feel, again, we were way ahead of our time in that. Our mission at Live and in Color is to provide opportunities to artists from diverse communities and backgrounds to create new stage works. For you all, what does having a diverse environment mean to you?
Well, for me, I think that's one of the things that was so amazing about this show, is that it took all of these things that we now think of as progressive, and it made them normal. And that's what was so special. And that's what's so amazing about it, is that, we're all just friends. We were all just working together and having this joyous experience together. And it's sort of in an extraordinary way wasn't about that. And that's sort of the place we all want to get to, is that we're all the same.
That was to your point. Like, we did take that joy and our differences and celebrate them backstage. And I think that's what works so well on stage. Like you're saying, because you were the one straight guy in the very loud gay dressing room. And, but it was beautiful, because, I think, and I say this a lot about Queer Eye, it's like some of the success of it was that gay men are kind of almost taught to fear straight men because you might have been bullied or whatever, and vice versa. And this show, all the behind the scenes, the family love and the celebration, that we did take that on stage. And I think that people felt that. Yeah.
That's true.
Anyone else want to jump in? That was so beautifully said. There's not much else to say. Let's actually take some questions, because I think we have some from our viewers. What was your favorite musical
Oh my God.
Easter egg reference from the show?
Shelley, do you still remember the name of that review? The Sondheim review? It was
funny. My dad just said it the other day. We were talking about something, and he said that. Yes. Oh God. Sondheim doing something. Sondheim by.
Side
What was it? We went side by side.
Yeah.
By Side by Side.
We did the whole scene. I get it. Yeah. Was it?
Do you want me to start?
Side by side.
I'm sure there's some crazy Zanna fan in the
please,
comments
somebody
will put it in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody comment it, please.
Yes.
I think it was Side by Side by Side by Side
Side by
Sondheim.
By
By
Sondheim. Maybe it was just side by side by Sondheim by Sondheim. Maybe that, but I remember having to like drill that in my brain. Oh, Timocito, very clever.
It's Timocito, man.
Oh.
What else? Who else is out there with a question? Do you have any pre-show rituals? Did you have any pre-show rituals? Thank you so much, Melissa.
Wig.
Yeah, wig. Yeah.
Do you remember there was a belting warm-up that I had from my lovely voice coach, Matt Farnsworth.
Farnsworth.
Go, gay, 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 gay. And then he would go gay! And we would do that happened.
I remember the boys' side. Jared, do you remember this? And Robb, Enrico, and I had like Mean Girl characters. And after a long while of us playing these kind of very entitled, privileged teenage girls, we kind of forced you to create a character as well. And I don't know if you remember this. Does anyone else remember this? Enrico, do you remember? We're like, oh yeah, I'm Becky.
There was some bullying.
Remember that?
We're Courtney, Rob. Jared, what did we give Jared?
Jared, he eventually had to play ball. And it was so sweet because then he got really committed, and then the four-way definitely worked comedically. That's what Darius still remember.
You got to with our names on them.
Do we have one more question?
Oh, Shelley and I worked together in another Dev production of Junie B. Jones.
Yes. Have you stayed in contact and worked together? Junie B. Jones, yes. Another Dev Janki diet show.
Darius and I worked on. Wait, and Dev, were you involved in this too? The wonderful reading of Sex, the musical.
Yeah.
And the title song was Sex, the musical.
Wow. Yes. I think that was pretty much soon after Xanadone. That was our follow-up.
I think it was. It was.
Do you know, I think it's bonkers actually because it's such a small business. It's crazy that we all haven't actually worked with each other more since then.
Yeah.
A little bit hurts my feelings. Somebody has to remedy that.
Yeah, well, we need to work on that.
Well, Anika said all you have to do is put it out there. You put it out there in a bar. You got to call the next day. I'm putting it out there. I want to work with you guys.
Right.
Okay.
Universe.
Well, Anika, just write another show because we.
Oh wait, that's Shelley and Greg. Greg Treacle and Shelley because I wrote about diversity.
Jaradoa.
But yes, so I have 9 brothers and sisters adopted from, like, my family actually looks like the cast of this show, which is why I felt so comfortable with everyone and so in love with everyone. But so I wrote it was one of those, like, can't find work, create your own. So I sort of slipped and fell and wrote a musical about my life growing up called Shafrika the White Girl. And so Shelley played my sister and Greg played one of my brothers. Yeah. That's actually the only time.
We did Serenade too.
Yes!
There you go.
I was looking at you and I was like, what do we do? Yes. And yes.
Because I was looking around going like, we haven't all worked together, but I know Rob and we did a few years ago now, we did like concert work together. And Jay, I always loved going to your club gigs. I mean, I even fell on stage one time when you weren't there.
Monday.
Well, as you said, we might have to make that happen. Maybe Timocito, do you want to write the middle-aged version of Heartsville High?
I am so
dancing.
Last dancing.
I think I will be speaking for the group when I say this of like, I feel like we just need to like raise a glass to the creative team and the producing team.
Yes.
And like also like Robert Schneider, like company manager, like Adam Roseworth, our stage manager. I mean, call out other names, but like yes, Jack and like Wade.
There he is, Adam.
So many amazing team that put the whole thing together.
The love. It was a place of we were able to all be so in love with each other because the place was created. It always starts at the top. The tone starts at the top, and from the top, like everybody, the dearest, wonderful team of
Deb fought for us when we weren't quite ready to open the show.
Yes.
He said they are not ready. No.
They are not ready.
Yes.
Yes, I remember that.
Cheers to them.
Cheers, our team, yeah. So we are totally out of time. This has just been so thrilling. It's been such an exciting night reuniting with this cast that means so much to me. I just want to say, if you're able, please consider donating to Live and in Color so we can foster more diverse and inclusive environment like this show. The stories we tell really change hearts and minds. Also, be sure to tune in next week when I talk to Janet DeCall, star of Broadway's In the Heights, Wonderland, and Prince of Broadway. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today. Thank you, Amanda, Jay, Anika, Shelley, Enrico, Darius, Robb, and Jared for joining me. I love you all. And Jay, would you lead us in a final toast before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I will say this. It's to I think we all feel this, but it is really rare to have moments in your life that impact others so profoundly and that you hold so dear. And I think during this time of self-isolation and quarantine, I know that for myself, I've gotten so reflective on the things that matter and the people that matter. So I just want to thank you because I don't think I ever had a chance to, for all, not just your contributions creatively, but as teachers. I think people are brought into our lives for specific reasons, and I could go around Robin and share what each of you has given me when we had this great moment together. So I'm just going to cheers to all of you for the love that you so openly shared, not with just each other, but with the world. And until we see each other again, which I hope will be very, very soon. I've always wanted to go to Wales. So Jared, I'm including you in this package.
Cheers. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you all next week.
Okay.